what is the first thing that you need to do before you doing a descaling? Okay, of course you have to be safe, and that means that you have to wear an apron, because the fish scales likely to fly around if you do not do it properly. So it is important that you protect yourself against the flying scales so that you do not need to do a lot of cleanup. Your apron will protect you on a lot of things. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, for today's session, I bought a greasy garupa. Okay, now one thing that I noticed is that actually garupa is one of the fish with the very small scale, and you can see they attach very tightly to the skin. So it is very difficult for you to actually descale this fish. This is to me one of the hardest. Okay, most of the time if you go to professionals, you will find that they use certain tools in order to just scrape off the scale. However, for us at home, you actually only need a spoon. Okay, you do not even need to go for knives. Okay, for instance, a lot of people will use knife and then they start scraping. Okay, as you can see over here, if I scrape, okay, you find that the scale is very hard to be removed, and most of the time when you do all this scraping, the scale will actually bounce off. It will fly everywhere. So what I found is that if you use a spoon, it actually minimize such effect, and you have to descale the fish in a certain direction. Okay, now most of the time you see people scrape along the body of the fish. Okay, this is actually not the right thing to do because the scale flies and it's very difficult to remove the scale. So what I found is that instead of going along, I go across the body. So I start with the tail. If you take a look here, once I go through, you find that now the scales are being removed. At the same time, you don't see the scale flying around. Okay, you don't see the scale flying off, and descaling actually become a very easy process as a result. Okay, okay, you can go slightly diagonal, but most of the time you go across the body, not along the body, and you'll find that the scales actually, when after they come off, they actually stick together. Okay, you can see from here. Now, why do I find descaling the fish interesting? Because to me it's more like an engineering process. Myself, I'm trained as an engineer, so everything is thinking in terms of process. How do I work on this in a certain flow of process, right? So as you can see from here, okay, on one side of the body, I'm already removing half of it. So all I need to do is to flip the fish, and then I continue with my descaling. Okay, you still need to go slightly along the fish if you are going onto the edge of the fish. Okay, because it's a bit tough here, but all the while you find that going across the fish, the body of the fish, you get the scale removed easily. Okay, okay. My wife is actually very particular about the scale of the fish. She doesn't like to see scale on a cooked fish. So last time when I first descaling the fish, I actually got a lot of complaint from her when I cooked the fish. So I start to look into how to remove the scale. Okay, as you can see over here, I am going along the body of the fish. Okay, one of the reasons is because this part here is pretty soft. Okay, the body of the fish, this is actually the belly of the fish, inside I believe the airbag have been burst, so you don't see a bloated up fish. Okay, so after the descaling, okay, this is one side of the fish, and you actually see a very clean body with no scale. So let's go on to the other side. Okay, again start from the tail, okay, and then diagonal using the spoon, and okay, across the body, not along the body. Okay. Now, sometimes you have to be very careful when doing the scaling. In the process of learning, I actually got tricked by the fins of the fish. Okay, the upper fin, as you can see from here, the upper fin actually have a lot of spikes. Okay, the fish will actually raise the fin here in order to prevent bigger fish from eating it, because these spikes will actually hurt those bigger fish. Okay, but as a human, you have to be very careful when you handle fish. Okay, it's not actually a walk in the park. Okay, I got scratched by these fins, and every time I have some inflammation after that, because you don't know there are bacteria on the fins. Okay, and sometimes it's kind of poisonous. Okay, so we already finished the top half on the second part of the other side of the body. So now we go for the bottom part. Okay, the other hand, you just need to place your hand onto the body of the fish firmly to make sure that it doesn't run. Okay, now one thing is that you have to make sure the spoon is upside down. If you do it this way, you won't be able to do much. Okay, you can also do the scratching this manner. Okay, but there's a higher tendency for the scales to fly off. Okay, so push using the spoon upside down. Okay, now take care when you are scraping, because this part here below the fins, okay, again you have a lot of scale hiding. My wife will always check those places. Okay, the belly of the fish, which is very difficult to scrape. Okay, now if you actually get the professionals at the supermarket to descale the fish for you, they will go through one round, but then it will not be very clean. Okay, so when you come home, if you need to do further descaling, okay, just use a spoon. You do not need to use any other thing. Okay, so now you can see the fish is fully descaled, and all the scales are left onto the chopping board. Okay, let me wash my hand. Now if you take a look at the surrounding, you don't find any scale falling except the part where the fish lies. So in this case, it's actually quite proven that the scales actually will not fly off if you use this method. Okay, now next, what would you like to do? Would you like me to show you how to get rid of the entrails? Actually, it's not a difficult process. Okay, now again, you have the fish. Let's look at the fish belly. Now when you open the head of the fish, you find the gills of the fish. Okay, and it is actually attached onto the main body, and this is the part where this is the part where the gills actually join with the head. Okay, so the objective is first to cut this part off so that it doesn't attach. Then you open up the fish from the belly, okay, first from here, and then you chop through the fins, okay, and then look for the anus of the fish, poke in the knife and cut it open. So let me demonstrate. I'm a left-hander, so okay, this is more to my comfort. Okay, first use your finger to hold on to the gills. Just make sure that your fingers are away from the knife. Okay, now cut the knife straight down, and then you already have the gills come off, okay, from the head portion. So next, you poke the knife through. Okay, make sure that your hands are away from the knife, and then you cut. You get the gills off the body portion. Okay, now the other part, the other half of the gill is actually attached to the top of the head here. So what you do is that you use a finger to pull it off. Basically, by this point, your gills are fully detached from the body. Okay, now how is it that the gill cannot come out? Because it is attached to other internal organs of the body. So you need to hold the fish down. Okay, hold the fish down here. Okay, and then and then you poke through the body, cut all the way. Okay, and this followed by here. Okay, you have to put your knife as 45 because this part here, the bone area, is actually quite tough. Okay, once you hear the click, you've broken the bottom joint. Okay, so next, look into the anus portion. Okay, by the way, this one I learned from Big Bang Theory. Learn from Penny. Okay, she taught the guys how to get rid of the entrails of the fish. So once you cut open, you got all the entrails out. Okay? And you have to be able to withstand some of the yucky feeling, the gross feeling of the internal organs. Because at the end of the day, you're eating the fish, so you have to understand how the internal works, and at the same time, just make sure that you can tolerate it. Like, you don't have to be scared of it, because at the end of the day, you can wash it off. So now, ta-da! We have the whole internal organs of the fish taken out in one piece. Okay, let's drop it. My hand. Okay, next thing to do is actually use a knife to scrape along the bottom of the bone structure there, because that's the part where you see some blood vessels, and these blood vessels normally is the result of a very smelly fish when you actually cook it, so you have to remove it. Okay, once you remove it, it's ready for washing. Okay, so here still slippery. That's why they call it greasy garupa. Okay, and voila, the fish is descaled. Okay, so now the easy part. Put the fish in, wrap it up, and into. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that was the process of how to descale and remove the entrails of the fish. And I hope that you learn something. You can get your children to do it for you, and but make sure that you practice first. Okay, that's all from me today. Okay, have a nice day.